What is your worst example of someone infantilizing you as an adult? Does my mom count? She's been infantilizing me more and more as I slowly become less dependent on her. Whenever she gets me clothes as a gift, it's always something that looks like a 10-year-old would wear. I'm really small too, so I literally fit into stuff a 10-year-old would wear. I'm 22. I call my mom, Mom. I've called her that since I was 12. Recently she's been asking me to call her Mommy. Which is really weird. If I don't call her Mommy or say Mom instead, I get the cold shoulder. She's done stuff like this my whole. She's just amping it up as of late. I'm pretty sure she'd have me sleeping in a crib and wearing a diaper if she could. A colleague at work called me little girl when I dared express my own views on what they were proposing, which involved space I'm responsible for, but they didn't seem to think they needed to talk to me. My mom loves to remind me that sacrifices have to be made and be better with your money, like I have 3 children and a full-time job like she did. I have a full-time job and am single, but I'm pursuing a questionable field and she loves to rub it in my face. Literally every day spent as a 22-year-old IT supervisor woman shrugging light skin tone. Every time I see my mom, she persistently and unwaveringly asks me to eat this or that, even after I declined to eat 100 times already. Then she bought me Scrubbleshitavan after telling her I have enough already. The ones she bought were too huge. Walmart doesn't accept returns due to COVID. I gave the screw bullshit back to her because she don't want me to give it to Salvation Army as donation. I am living with my 88 years ill grandmother and my 58 years old mom. My mom see me as the 35 years old I am. My grandmother, however, wake up at 6:45 in the mornings to make sure that I get up in time for work. I always wake up on time, but I guess you never know, she had tried to give me a midnight curfew. Admittedly for her own sake, because she worries. I of course told her no, I'm not authorized to touch the washing machine because I might somehow change all the settings and be unable to change them back. Despite the fact I taught her how to use it. This is also ignored. I was told to not speak to strangers while I traveled. I laughed. And I work at my old middle school. So now I go to school and not to work. I sometimes feel like some people take me less seriously because I'm single with no kids in my late 30s. Like, they compare me with themselves at the age they were last single, childless. I'll be the first to admit that I don't know how to lack of sleep from having a baby feels great. Yet they totally seem to discount that I've been managing everything by myself for decades now, and that also can make you a pretty complete adult. I've been blessed with the genetics that make me appear much younger than my age. That being said, I worked for a manager for nearly 10 years who would angrily say, out loud, often in front of other people in the office, that she wanted to put me over her knee when I upset her. So awkward. Also, looking back, I probably should have filed a report. But I liked her aside from that, and when it comes to managers I figured better the devil you know? Or I was naive. Maybe both. We are both female. Obligatory. My mom. Apparently this is a widespread thing. She constantly questions, worries about my daughter and questions my parenting, asks if I'm drinking enough water, reminds me of basic shit like, don't drink and drive, wear your seatbelt, like I'm 16 again. Drives me nuts. But the most egregious was probably a surgeon I consulted with a couple years ago. I was 32 to 33 at the time. I have a child, a PhD, a career, health insurance, all those adult things. He repeatedly referred to me as young lady and was so condescending when I asked questions about the procedure. I don't remember specifics, but it really rubbed me the wrong way. He was probably in his 70s and talked to me like you'd talk to a small child. I switched doctors after that. My mom constantly belittles me and degrades me. I'm not supposed to have opinions that differ from hers. If I reply with the wrong words she expected, I'm giving her attitude. I'm almost 30. This morning, she literally reminded me to go have a poop because she had needed the bathroom first. Like, yes mom, I'm totally going to forget I needed to go to the bathroom because you went in first. If I mention the fact she is treating me like a child, she will go on about how I'll always be her baby girl. Which TBH is cringy AF. That sentiment is meant to mean unconditional love or whatever, but she uses it to justify telling me how to cook my lunch at 29. My freshman year of college, my parents would track my phone, and if they saw that I was at someone's apartment or dorm hanging out with friends, they would call me incessantly and keep me on the phone for hours, effectively alienating me from and annoying my friends until no one wanted to hang out with me anymore. When I called them later to tell them to chill the fuck out, they said that actually, I need to ask permission before I leave my dorm for any reason other than class or church. I should mention that the college is 8 states away from where my parents live. Not sure if this belongs here, but okay. I have really sensitive skin and get really bad sunburns with minimal sun exposure and tons of sunscreen applied. It's been this way since I was in college, and I've learned to be super careful. Ever since I told my mom about this, she uses every possible chance she gets to remind me that I have sensitive skin. I know she does it because she wants me to be healthy, but it comes across as if she doesn't think I remember that I have sensitive skin. I'm 26 and have been handling this for 7 years. I even get scolded if I somehow do get a sunburn, no matter how minimal. Sigh. I love my dad and stepdad. But when they blame my husband for my mistakes. When they act like I'm always innocent or perfect, just, no. And I do tell them. I'm a grown-ass woman, I fucked my own shit up, it's on me and that's that. I find it patronizing when they say things like that to me. I know they mean well, but also, no woman shrugging medium light skin tone. I get called little girl, cutie, etc. by my peers often, some who are younger than me, F26. I'll talk about quantum physics and be called cute. I used to hate it, but I've decided to own my eternally innocent and young demeanor. It's not all bad. People are never mean to me aside from the infantilization. My fur baby son would love to answer this question, lol. This isn't that bad, but I do fencing in a historical reenactment group and they are so bad about this. A story I recall was when I was walking and a guy just took my fencing gear from me while saying, "Let me get that for you, m'lady." I was dressed as a man first off, and second of all, ask me? I was too tired to argue, but it still upsets me. I'm kind of small, 5'0", and have a baby face, so people call me kid all the time. I'm constantly being told that I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to politics. I lean to the left, but I live in Texas simply because of my perceived age. It's the most annoying thing. Yep. This. I wasn't her baby when I was a baby, so why should she get to baby me when I am a grown-arsed adult? NC has saved my life. My ex-boyfriend's best friend said to me, "Girl, grow up and get a real job," when I complained about being sexually harassed when working in retail as a teenager, young adult. I was 21 at the time, and hadn't worked in retail for a year or so, but other people in Service Joe bullshit were also there. Whenever I brought something up that made me uncomfortable in our relationship, my ex would tell me I'll understand when I'm older, that I need to grow up, or say I wouldn't know because I hadn't been in a relationship before. He had only been in one before me. I felt crazy because the issue was always me being too young and not understanding responsibilities. One thing that I asked was for him to send me at least one text a day, but he wanted time to himself some days, even when we hit 9 months together. He would ignore my texts a lot. I felt like a chore to him. I broke up with him at the end of May. I found child porn on his phone. He said he was only curious, but couldn't tell me how he found it. I was 20 and he was 33 when we started dating. Trying to hit on older women. My mom always does it. I have a cat and consider her to be my child. I'm fully in charge of her life and well-being. All the expenditures connected to my cat lie on me solely. So, it would be logical to assume I am an adult mother, you know. But my mum keeps telling me what to do with my cat, how to take care of her and what's better for her, although I've been living with my cat for over a year now and I know perfectly what's better for my child. Still, my mum doesn't care and invalidates my experience and knowledge, as if I will never get smart enough to be a mother. She always has to be the smartest and give advice even when no one asks for it. And I have to say it really hurts and makes my confidence go down. Sad face. My mom constantly every other day sending me text messages or calling me about Dateline episodes she's watches about women being kidnapped, raped, murdered, etc. None of this is to be taken lightly, but flooding your 21-year-old daughter, who does not go to bars, travel to foreign countries alone, or take Uber's messages intended to scare is not helpful at all. This has been going on since I was 14 and got my first phone. Pointing at something that I just saw come out of the oven, careful, it's hot, and from the same parent, let me do that, it's sharp, when I offered to help cut potatoes. That sort of thing, all the time. My mill. She thinks my significant otherand I can't wash a dish, can't change a bedsheet, can't turn on the stove, can't use a toaster etc. It's crazy. But she'd way worse to her own husband. She fixed his plate, doesn't let him scoop food for himself and tells out, watch your step. Watch out for cars. Don't fall down. Every step of the way. My family used to do it all the time. When I was 21 I was thinking of moving out and my mom was convinced I had no idea what the cost of living alone was and how much work it would be. She'd constantly try and regulate how I interact with professors even though she's never set foot in a university, but when I pointed that out, she'd get offended. My sister was convinced I wouldn't know what looked good on me and that I needed her to go shopping. She'd constantly humiliate me in front of shop assistants by dismissing objections I made. I was adult enough to run my mom's whole household and graduate college and university without them lifting a finger or knowing most of the time what I did. But of course I couldn't have lived in a shared apartment with other people my age. Stupidly I believed them for far too long. My dad tried to ground me once for talking back, otherwise known as having an opinion that was different to his. I was 25 and had moved out 5 years prior. My mom constantly tries to do it. Calling me to remind me of basic, painfully obvious things such as not forgetting to take my passport before a trip, even though this has never happened before and I've never been forgetful, is pretty much the main culprit. Drives me nuts, and sours most of our conversations. Whenever I do normal things like be the one who'd finish the last bites on the serving plate, wash the dishes, or clean the house, I'd always get a good job or a good girl praise from my immediate family. I'm already 20. A simple, thank you, is enough. My dad always guides me out when I'm reversing off his driveway after a visit. I find it annoying but I know it's also his own little way of showing that he cares. My father-in-law literally explained how to shampoo hair to his son, daughter, wife and myself. Step by step. Then he got mad when we laughed at him for it. We're all over 27. This is a petty one, but my dad always reminds me to do my taxes. I never wait until close to the deadline anyway, so I don't need to be reminded. I've told him this before and he seemed a little offended. I mentioned it to my younger brother and he said he's never gotten a reminder like that. He's 25, I'm 30, expressionless. I'm pregnant currently and people are ridiculously annoying. A couple of days ago I was waiting for my husband to come out of Starbucks when some dude offered me his chair. I thanked him but told him I'm just waiting a few minutes so I'm fine, but thanks. Huge long discussion about how I have to sit down because pregnant. I ended up having to walk away and stand somewhere else because it was too awkward. Mostly it's just microaggressions though. Offering is cool, but if I have a bag with, say, a bottle of water and a low as fuck of bread in, don't give me the "are you sure you can carry that" discussion. When my mom doesn't allow me to drive her car. I am 53 years old and apparently she drives better than I do. A couple years ago I was visiting the parents and offered to drive to a shopping center several miles away. Of course the answer was no. We left the store and a torrential downpour hit. Again, Mom just let me drive. No. I tell her not to take the back roads because of flooding. She won't listen and people start turning back and she plows through. When she realizes the road is flooded she reversed and almost drove into other vehicles. She got so flustered she almost drove the back end of the car over a small cliff. And still she wouldn't let me drive. Go Mom. My Phil spent 30 minutes explaining to me how the stock market works and the importance of savings. I was 28, had a dual master's, MBA and worked at an investment management firm as a stock analyst. All he ever does is treat me like a dumb 12-year-old girl, it's pathetic. When I was 28, I was looking for a therapist and went to an intake appointment. She was getting my general history and asked about my level of education. I told her I had a 4-year degree. Her, from where? Me, from, well-regarded school an hour away. Her, smarty pants. That was my last appointment with her. My father does that to me and my siblings all the time. Like he'll make me explain some very basic concept from uni and then justify it with, I just wanted to see if you know what you're talking about. Even though we're in completely different fields. Yelling at them about how they spend their own money. Things like those. When I brought my own lunch to work and my boss said, "Such a good girl." I look young for my age, so I've experienced this a lot. One which sticks out was being called Missy by a man who was 6 years younger than me. And being told, aren't you clever, because I got okay grades in my GCSEs even though I since got a degree. I can't think of a worst example, but my parents are both guilty of infantilizing me, especially my dad. The most recent was about a week ago. I was washing a big pot and he tried to take over for me 3 times and was telling me how to wash it. I'm 25, I know how to wash a damn pot. I'm living at home right now, so it's a constant thing. They completely disregard or forget that I lived by myself in a different city for 6 years, face with rolling eyes. My mum texts me daily to remember me to put on deodorant or brush my hair. Because I obviously can't remember to do that on my own. She texts me all the time and wants me to come over all the time. And doctor keeps me telling me I will change my mind and partner when I tell them I don't want children because I obviously don't know myself and what I want. My boyfriend loves me explain me basic stuff that I already know. When I was an adult, in my 20s, and I'd buy my father and I football tickets for his birthday, he would always pay me back because the daddy buys the tickets. I'm cutting him out next week for a multitude of reasons, infantilizing being a major one. Some members of my family always address me as niece or child if they don't agree with what I said. I'm 26 and the most educated member of our family. Men and couples asking to do DDLG. Daddy Dom little girl aka male pedo and female pedo.